Thank you so much for coming back to another video, and in today's video we're going to be talking about Ralph Breaks the Internet. TravTries is once again here to talk about the sequel to Wreck-It Ralph with me. If you guys have not already seen our review for Wreck-It Ralph, I definitely recommend going to check it out. It was a lot of fun to talk with him about that movie, and I talked about in that review how I watched both Wreck-It Ralph and Ralph Breaks the Internet back to back on the exact same day for the first time. So that was definitely exciting to do. I've definitely heard a lot about these movies and they definitely seemed right up my alley. And there were just some Disney movies that I missed. I missed the second one mainly because I hadn't seen the first one, and now that both of them are available on Disney Plus, if I'm not mistaken, or I think I watched Wreck-It Ralph on Netflix? I don't remember. Either way, they're available on streaming services. Once again, you have John C. Reilly and Sarah Silverman coming back to play Ralph and Vanellope. And yeah, just like the first one, really enjoyed this movie. Found it to be a great time. I think the first film is a better film. I think it has a bit of a more compelling narrative, and I feel like it's a little bit more of a tighter script. But I definitely enjoyed this film as well, and I thought it was a great follow-up to the first one, Wreck-It Ralph. I think there's some things about this movie that felt like they just kind of made some decisions that they wouldn't have made based on the events of the first one, and I'm going to get into that in just a little bit. But yeah, this film kind of expands on the fun ideas and clever kind of writing that comes with the first film. If you guys remember my review for the first Wreck-It Ralph, I talked about how one of my favorite things about the movie was just the world itself. The movie takes place within an arcade, and at the end of the night when the kids go home and the owner of the arcade goes home, all of the game characters get to kind of end their shift, and they end up going to meet kind of at the power base where all of the different game cabinets are plugged into, and they can kind of go into each other's games. There's like video game bars where they can hang out, and it's kind of just like an area where all the characters from all these various games can come together and mingle. There's tons and tons and tons of cameos in both these films. The first one had tons of cameos from a bunch of video game characters like Kano from Mortal Kombat or Sonic the Hedgehog, which was really cool. There's so many others. And here in the second one, they decide to go into the internet. Now I'm going to get into why they go into the internet in just one second. But yeah, going into the internet in this movie alone, it just allows for them to do so much. There's literally a Disney section in the internet where they literally are able to come across every Disney thing that you can possibly imagine. There are Marvel characters, there's a hint to Stan Lee, there are Star Wars characters, there are literally stormtroopers rolling around at one point, and there's literally a part of the movie I'm sure you guys have seen in the marketing where Vanellope meets every single Disney princess all at one time, and they actually brought back the voice actresses of all of the remaining living Disney princesses, which I thought was awesome. And yeah, that sequence is one of my favorite. So without a doubt, I'll go ahead and start this off by saying that all the cameos and references and connections to things and all these kinds of, you know, references to things that you do on the internet and different websites, all that, I found it to be super charming, super fun, and I really enjoyed the way that they utilize these things and kind of seeing Ralph and Vanellope's kind of point of view in these situations with these things that we all know so well. Now, I should explain how and why they actually get into the internet in this movie, and I will say that that's the one thing about this movie specifically that just did not feel like a really good decision to kind of push the story off. I talked a little bit about this in my review for the first movie, and if you've seen these movies, then you already know what I'm talking about, and if you haven't, I guess I'll do a little bit of explaining. They explained in the first movie that if there's ever anything that goes wrong, if a video game character is acting out of character and does anything for the outside world to see that game as glitchy or anything like that, the arcade owner is very likely to find that that game is glitchy or broken and end up unplugging the game, where now all the characters inside of that world have a short period of time to get out and get to the power base where they're plugged in with all the other cabinets, but their world and anybody who's left behind is destroyed. In the first film, they set it up with a lot of stakes. They really set it up to be something very meaningful, something you don't want to do. You don't want to mess with your own game, and that's something that's a huge message or a huge part of the plot of the first film. So this movie starts off and Vanellope mentions to Ralph that she's kind of bored of her game and she wishes there was something new tracks, new cars, new things, and out of him being a great friend, which he is, and I really enjoy him for that, he ends up going into her game and creating his own makeshift track for her. She has a racing game, I should mention, and when somebody's actually playing the game and playing as Vanellope, she sees this other track and decides to go down that path. Now the player on the outside is losing control of Vanellope in the game because she's doing her own thing, and in doing so ends up breaking off the steering wheel on the outside, and now the game has been unplugged and their world is destroyed. And for me, man, right out of the gate, I thought to myself, why would they make a decision like that? Like, why would Ralph even risk doing something to ruin another game or do anything to make it seem glitchy to the outside world, knowing how dangerous that could be for everybody who is in that world? It just felt selfish, and watching them back to back, it felt like a kind of just like a oversight as far as who the characters are and what they just went through in the previous film. So now that that's happened, they essentially have to go into the internet after the arcade owner ends up getting Wi-Fi, and they find a way to go on eBay and find a replacement steering wheel that they need to go and purchase and get sent to the arcade so that they are able to get her game up and running again. Once they get into the internet, they understand that they need to start making money, so they start making money in all these different ways in the internet, and that's where you start to have this big fun adventure where they're making all kinds of references to ways you can make money on the internet. And anybody who uses the internet constantly, which we all do at this point already, there is plenty to laugh at and really relate to in this movie. Now, before I continue giving my thoughts on this movie, let's go ahead and hear what TravTries had to say about this.
Hey, what's up guys, it's Trav, and so Anthony once again has asked me to come on and do a collab with him, and it is on the sequel to a collab we've already did, which was, Wreck-It Ralph, yeah. I literally almost forgot the title of this thing. So this one is Ralph Breaks the Internet. Once again, John C. Reilly reprises his role as Ralph, this video game character that was kind of meant to be a villain, but he's kind of tired of it and stuff like that. This one could have been a train wreck. It literally could have been such a big train wreck just from like, it's basically one giant meme about the internet. Because him and the little girl that he developed a friendship with, they because of the plot, they have to go to the internet, and the internet scope and scale of it and everything is just so charming, so amazing. There's like so much product placement. Pretty sure there is so many Easter eggs. This is a movie with Easter eggs galore, and you kind of just find yourself pausing a couple times to just appreciate, and the same thing happened to the first movie when I watched it to do this collab, is all the Easter eggs. Like, these movies are not only good plot-wise, story-wise, good writing, great characters that you actually get attached to. You find yourself really loving Ralph by the end of that first one. And now it's kind of like the continuation, their second adventure, and I respect this movie for being great inside of this like Easter egg filled world, because it's basically like a physical like internet, like where you basically can see inside the internet just like you can with their games and stuff in the first one. It's like its own world, living and breathing. There's pop-up related jokes, there's dark web jokes, there's, you know, all of these different places, and like there's even like a sort of, I don't know if YouTube was actually like in the movie, I'm not remembering, but there is a segment of like sequences where basically they have to make videos and it's put onto the internet. So it's like a form of YouTube, and it just, every joke that's in this is so true. It's like, it's so aware of itself. It's so aware of like just how the internet is just ridiculous sometimes. We do these things for views and stuff like that, and like, you know, picture clicks and like everything, and it's just like the internet is just like one big high. And Ralph Breaks the Internet captures that better than I have ever seen, because it's literally like going inside the internet and seeing what it's like. And, you know, as a fan of being a creator and being on the internet for literally years, like everything that this movie says about the internet is so true. So like I said, it could have been a train wreck because it could have literally focused only on that aspect and not having a good story. But the fact that they were able to make a good story, make a heart-breaking story also with like a good feeling as well with this craziness, that's a good movie. There's actually a game in here that mixes like Grand Theft Auto with like Need for Speed. It's amazing, because that game you wish was actually real, because it looks so freaking fun. That game is totally making fun of today's platform games like Grand Theft Auto, just games you play online, and there's literally like people playing the characters it's bizarre. To wrap up my segment of this review, I love the Wreck-It Ralph universe that they built because it's so, like, aware of itself. It's so, like, sort of in its own way making fun of today's world in so many ways, and while also having a great story. But that's all the time I'm going to take from you guys. Thank you so much for watching my segment. I would like to thank Anthony once again for allowing me to do a collab with him. This has been a lot of fun. Can't wait to do more. So you guys will be seeing me in the next one. Trav out. Peace out.
As usual, love having you here in my videos, my friend Trav. Thank you so much, genuinely. For all of you guys who have not already checked out Trav's channel, he's got so much going on over there. Definitely go down to the link below in the description box. Go give him some love. I can't wait to see what we do next. We have some ideas we've been talking about, but you guys will definitely see Trav on this channel very, very soon. But once again, a big thanks to him for being here in this video. So yeah, like I mentioned, I didn't really like the way that they kind of set off on this adventure. It just felt a little bit out of character, and it felt like it was kind of not really taking the events of the last film as seriously as it should have been. But with that said, the rest of the film I found to be a really, really great time. Like I mentioned, John C. Reilly and Sarah Silverman are back in this movie, and I think they do a phenomenal job playing Ralph and Vanellope. I really enjoy their friendship and the things that they have to go through in this movie. And beyond all the great references from things like Star Wars and Marvel and other Disney properties and websites and all that fun stuff that's in this movie, the voice cast is great. You have small but kind of significant roles in this film, like Gal Gadot, who's in this film, and she plays a badass version of herself. And yeah, I really, really enjoyed the way that this film looks, the action, the fun, big spectacle moments. The humor was great. There was so much about this movie that I really, really enjoyed. And just like the first movie, I feel like it's some of the best modern Disney stuff that they've released. I do thoroughly enjoy these movies. I think back to back watching them was a great time. And I think anybody who watches these movies can take a lot away from them while also just having a fun time reliving all these things that are nostalgic or things that you can relate to today that are pretty funny and cute. Similar to the first movie, this movie has tons and tons of great messages. And in the first movie, what I really enjoyed about that one is that it was about self-acceptance and the acceptance of others, and there's tons of other messages, but that was a huge part of it. And in this one, it's really about friendship and the kind of roller coaster ride that friendships can go on. I think we can all relate at some point in our younger years to kind of maybe coming out of high school or switching schools or switching neighborhoods and having that really close friend for a period of time, and getting a little bit older, maybe people are going in different directions, people move away, people go to school, and there's distance in the relationship now. You don't really know how to handle it. Maybe your closest friend or even a family member has moved away and you don't really feel as connected to them as you did, and a part of you feels lost. And that's really what this movie is about. Is across this adventure, Vanellope is finding herself in different ways. She's finding new things that bring her happiness, and Ralph is struggling because he's kind of comfortable with the same old thing. He doesn't really know how to let go of his friend, and throughout the course of the film, he makes mistakes, she makes mistakes, they argue, and I really love with the full circle that they come around at the very end of the movie. The relationship that these two friends have is great, and I thoroughly enjoyed that because, you know, like I said, we can all relate with it, but from personal experience, you know, when I first was turning 18, 19, 20, I was losing friendships. People were disconnecting from me, and you know, it wasn't necessarily personal. Maybe it was, but I don't know if it was or not. But you know, people were just moving on. People were going to do their own things. I was going to do my own thing. And as you get older, you find yourself maybe not texting or calling as often or hanging out as often because you moved to different cities. I literally moved to Nevada and came back to Florida, my home state, and I don't live where I initially grew up and where all of my closest friends are, but I talk to my closest friends whenever I can, and we talk to each other whenever we have the chance. And I know that when we do talk or when we do see each other in person, that's a great time, and it's like we haven't skipped a beat. But there are a lot of moments that sometimes your mind kind of works against you. Who are my friends? Do those friends of mine that are hours away, do they even care anymore? Or, you know, you don't hear from them as often. Do you think that they care about, like, talking to you? And this is the kind of stuff, this kind of stuff goes in your mind. It gets in your head. And kind of being able to see Ralph go through that and kind of have this friend that he loves so much that he is almost kind of obsessive about, having to kind of, you know, take a seat and kind of realize, like, all right, you know, like, she has her own life, and I love her, and we're good friends, but I gotta kind of step back and let her do her own thing, and when we get together, it's gonna be a beautiful time. And I love that. You know, I think that there's a really good message there for kids who are dealing with transitions, getting away from friends or family members, moving away, you know, kind of going off to college, whatever it is. I think there's some great messages in there for both adults and kids, and I really enjoyed the overall message of friendship in this movie. So Ralph Breaks the Internet, a fun ride with tons of references, cameos, nostalgia galore, with really great voice performances, very fun action sequences, and just a fun movie overall with a great message. at the end of it, and I really thoroughly enjoyed it, and I do hope they make a third movie at some point. As usual, you guys can find the link to TravTries down below in the description box. Go give them some love. Hit that like button in this video if you guys enjoyed it. Comment your thoughts. Have you seen this movie? Do you like this movie? Do you not like this movie? You guys know the drill. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.